our community and our region, specifically for reducing greenhouse gases, specifically for making our region a little bit greener and making sure that there's enough green space for everybody to enjoy. And so what we're going to do today is everyone's going to go around sort of the round table here and talk about what their organization does, how they're contributing to the incredible green economy here in Windsor, Essex, and Chatham-Kent. And we'll open up the floor for some questions as well and have a bit of a conversation here. So if you have questions, please feel free to raise your hand. And what we hope you take away from this conversation today is really some tangible tips and tricks on how you, as individuals, can contribute in this way too. How can you lower your impact to the planet, and how can you sort of help out with the work that's going on up here from the City of Windsor, from Local 444, from Green Sun Rising, from IRCA, from EWSA or ESWA. We've got some amazing folks here, so thank you so much for joining us, and we're excited to launch the conversation. And so to start us off today, I'll give a little bit of background of who WeTech Alliance is and why we're here, and why we're supporting this event today and why it's so important to us. So WeTech is a regional innovation center, so if you're unfamiliar, there's 17 of us across Ontario, and we exist solely to help innovative and scaling companies start, scale, and grow in Windsor, Essex, and Chatham-Kent. And so who here, just show of hands, who's ever had a really big idea of something that you wanted to create? You thought, this could be the next iPhone, this could be the next sliced bread. Anybody? We've got some folks here. Now, keep your hands up if you've ever done something about it. Have you started it? Have you gone out and actually put that idea to work? Not many people have, and that's really why we exist. And one of the reasons why we do what we do at WeTech is to provide people in our community the tools to get their big ideas into reality. And so if you're looking to do that, if you're looking to sort of start your own business and you've got an innovative or different thing to do, we want to help you out. We've got Susie Kustra here, who's our program manager that's ready to chat with you at any point after, and I'll be around too. And without further ado, we'll get started. So first up today is the team from Local 444, who I know you've seen them out in our community doing incredible things for us. And we have Rick here. Rick is in charge of the Green Committee there, and he's going to talk a little bit about their vision for a greener Windsor Essex region.
Thank you very much, Adam, and thank you all for attending. This will be the first of many Green Expos, so we're making history here because I do believe we need to be part of the dialogue about what's going on. So let me introduce myself a little bit. Rick Labonte, I worked at Stellantis with Chrysler, Daimler Chrysler, served now Stellantis today. And I've been involved in my union since I was 20. I was 25 when I got hired at Stellantis. And before you know it, I had some ideas I brought to the local, and we have an environment committee launched by the 90s. So let me explain a little bit. Our union have always been about trying to enhance the quality of life of our members. People that work in the plant, we also worry about their work schedule, their benefits, their pension plans, and all these things. But what we also recognize that you can have great benefits and great pension, but if we don't live long enough to appreciate it, or if the environment is disturbing out there, it's not much to celebrate about going out 30 and out to enjoy your life when you're afraid to go outside because you might be barbecued by the sun. Or if the air quality is so bad, we need a mask to breathe. It's the reality of what happened if we didn't get on board and try to be the solution to the pollution. We have a banner there called Be the Solution to the Pollution. Bring your ideas to Adam or anybody to help to improve our planet. We're all for that. So what happened in the late 80s and early 90s, before there was a Kyoto Accord, before they even talked about reducing greenhouse gases, we had some leadership like Buzz Hargrove and Bob White thought that we need to start getting people on the ground level to talk about the environment and how we can make a better sustainable future. Knowing that, like I said, no point in having a great pension plan if you're afraid to enjoy it, or the benefits are getting so much harder to negotiate because people are getting sicker because of the pollution. And so we recognize that we need to do that and start from the ground level. Now, as workers, we don't design our vehicle, right? We build, an automobile. And you might think that's an oxymoron, having you guys, this product that you're building contributing to the greenhouse gases. We know that, and so as a union, we've been trying to plant seeds to bring that up to the bargaining table. Talk about how can we improve this? Because we want to build cars, but we would definitely want to build green cars and a car that doesn't pollute. And so we started this environment committee, which ended up being part of the national agenda, that every local all across the country must have an environment committee to help proven, not in just within the workplace, but outside the workplace. Almost like you heard of health and safety, but what about the health and safety of the community that we live in? So that was when we started making some changes. And we made changes by being a lobbyist to the city politics, the provincial politics, and federally to help make changes. And we have done that. We changed the idle law, we changed the way how pesticides is sprayed on the parks where kids play. We made a lot of rules about, it wasn't about us coming up with the ideas, but hearing a good idea and say, hey, let's run with that. That's a good idea this company's doing. We should do that in our own backyard. By 1999, the union took it so seriously that we bargained environmental representative in the Detroit 3. So Allison was there holding the camera. She's actually an implant rep, and that came about in 1999 on, that we bargained somebody that can work inside, talk about how do we handle waste. Can we find something to do that we apply the 3 R's, reduce, reuse, recycle, and how can we improve the performance? And we must have done so many good things to get their attention, because we end up being the first plant to have a hybrid car ever by Stellantis. All around the world, they chose Windsor because we've been an advocate at the bargaining table. We've been improving the community. We plant over thousands and trees all around Turkey Creek and around our plant to help absorb that law. We're the advocate about, you might have heard of Ojibwe Natural Urban Park. I helped put a petition on the House of Parliament to get it going, and it became a private member's bill for Brian, and him and I worked together to help us get across the finish line. Why? Because in Windsor, as we know, we need more trees, we need more air quality improvement here. Windsor was known as the small capital of Canada once upon a time, and we have changed that a lot. And we started getting our companies to get on board to say, like, you are a solution to the pollution. Let's do something different. And I'm proud to say that we're not only building a hybrid minivan, we're building an electric Charger, Challenger. Quite a few vehicles are coming in the next year or two that we're going to start seeing that might have not been there if we haven't been an ally for the environment. Because a lot of people might have thought, no, you know, you're making cars, we wouldn't want to get in the way. In fact, we do want to make cars. We believe that if workers are not part of that dialogue, somebody else is going to do it. And we want it to be Canadian jobs. We want it to be somewhere local. Besides, it's not an environmentally friendly vehicle if you're buying it from Japan and have to ship it all the way down here. That's already did bad for the environment just before you even start that car. So we recognize that we want to provide for North America the greenest car, and we want to promote anywhere locally, and that's the best way to do it. To reduce our carbon footprint is to keep it where everything closer. So instead of having somebody at a plant from Mexico, how about more Canadian plant feeding into the belly of the bee? That would be, you know, feeding good job, keeping it local, and definitely bring the cost down as well. So there's a lot of things that we've been doing, but we also had to change it from the inside out. Every union office, every union local across uniform, all recycle. In fact, our Port Elgin is an education facility. It was one of the first to have the wind turbine running the whole center way before the wind farm really took off in Ontario. We figured if we're going to tell our employer how to behave, we have to walk the talk. And we have to get there and make sure we clean house within our own structure so we can live it as an example to move forward. So these are just some of the things that we do. In fact, I had a meeting just in July with the mayor to talk about the Peace Fountain. You guys know Charlie Brook Peace Fountain? It's going to be replaced by 2025. And so I suggested that we have the Detroit River water turbine run the fountain instead of taking 80 homes to power that fountain for, you know, whatever season that we run it for. We actually can do a lot better by having the Detroit River Current run that whole park and even power this city, that light around that area. So he thought it was a great idea. Now again, I don't have to answer to all this, but my job is to facilitate, get people in a room that might not normally, talk about it. We'll get them into a room and don't let them out until they come up with an idea. I don't know. But we do everything creatively to try to get that idea going that we can do things locally and we can be the solution to the pollution. Dr. David Suzuki once told me, if we really wanted to do, the big picture, you gotta think globally, you have to act locally. And if people look at your examples of what you do in your own backyard, this will catch on. And I truly believe that.
Rick, thank you so much. I think Rick makes a great point about the power of the collective, right? You have so many members, and because of that, you're able to talk to a global manufacturer and convince them to do the right thing, even when that doesn't always necessarily translate to better, bottom lines. So incredible work, and thank you so much for the work that you're doing.
And the most recent, to point that what he's just talking about, we're just going through a Detroit bargaining right now. And we recognize that an electric vehicle, you're going to be reducing some of the workforce, right? Think about it. You don't need plastic gas tanks to be put in a vehicle. You're going to, be looking at some numbers differently. They already started bargaining with the Ford, GM, and Stellantis next to make sure that we put a language in there that if we're going to lose jobs due to technology, that we're going to encourage those workers to be one of the first people to get hired at a battery plant, or one of the first people who's negatively affected by the technology to be one of the ones to get hired in our family to build green cars. That's very important that we looked at the mathematics that as you bring in a new product, it might change some things, but the workers should not lose their job because of that change. They should be doing different work. They need to be brought in, and that's called a just transition. And something you're going to hear a lot. We can make changes, but you got to make sure that it's just for the workers and just for the community, and most importantly, just for the environment.
Thank you so much, Rick. So from grassroots of looking at amazing folks that are in our backyard, when you're doing this work to really work with large corporations to make sure that they're doing the right thing, to the city of Windsor, who's been doing a tremendous amount of work, not only today, but preparing for what this future looks like for us. So we have Karina here with us from the city of Windsor, and Karina's going to tell us a little bit about some of the initiatives that are going on there.
Okay, thank you. So yes, I'm the directors and the supervisor of environmental sustainability and climate change for the city of Windsor. We really got our start back in around 2006. Got it? Okay, sorry. So in the city of Windsor, we really got our start looking at the environment back in 2005. It was actually a council directive. Until that date, there was no environmental pillar under our strategic plan. So 2005 got started, and that basically led to the environmental master plan of 2006. But now we've grown that. We've grown those early steps. We now have 4 different master plans that we are aiming to achieve some great things. So first we have our 2017 environmental master plan, which really looks at how do we improve our air quality, our water quality. We look at land use planning, resource efficiency, all those things. Then 2012 and now more recently 2020, we actually developed our City of Windsor's climate change adaptation plan. So this is the plan that we're looking at, saying we know that even when we talk about mitigation and reducing greenhouse gas emissions, we still have to live with the emissions that have already been put out. So we know that there's a certain level of climate change that we have to expect. So how as a city do we make sure we're resilient so that the residents are prepared, that our communities are prepared, our businesses are prepared. So we have our adaptation plan. And then finally in 2017, we did our first community energy plan and our corporate climate action plan, which is, again, that's on the greenhouse gas reduction side. So how do we transition to electric vehicles? How do we improve the efficiency of our buildings? Right now, our targets are 40% 2017 levels by 2041, but we do have a council directive to figure out how do we get to net zero. So myself and my colleague, we have a booth over there. Michelle's our community energy plan administrator. Any questions about it? But we are working on that plan that we're going to take back to council in the spring to say we need to align with the science that is saying that we need to get to zero by 2050. So we're working on that plan right now. Those are our big plans. There's so many actions within those plans. And part of the work we do is we collaborate with everybody here. From the Solid Waste Authority on waste reduction, Local 404 is always included in our Earth Day events. ERCA, we need to protect our natural heritage features and our nature-based solutions, because that's going to be part of our solution for adaptation and mitigation. So many things. I encourage you to visit us at the booth after, because we do have a Let's Talk City of Windsor website. We have a bunch of surveys, and we really need people to take the time and tell us what they want to see next.
So one of the terms we play a lot with at WeTech is the term ecosystem. And by definition, an ecosystem is a number of factors, right? Individual players, you've got mechanics and different sort of pieces that all come together to create a bubble of life. And when you look at the stage here, we kind of have representation from the entire ecosystem in our space in greenhouse reduction. So you've got the city of Windsor here that's really setting the tone for what it looks like in our municipality and what it looks like in our region, because they're working with other municipalities, all 7 of them, to really set forward these plans. Here are the things that we need to do in order to get to this net zero, which is a lofty goal and one that every municipality across Canada right now, and really the world, is focusing on. But that's fairly new in terms of the strategy and in terms of thinking in this way. It's only been the last few years where we've had mass adoption. But there are companies in our community that have been doing this work and pushing for green for a very long time. And up next is one of the companies that have been doing that in Green Sun Rising. And so just show of hands, how many people have seen the Green Sun Rising portable charger stations around the city of Windsor, right? You've seen them for years. They've been around for decades. They've been doing this work in our community before anyone even said the word green, except for the name of your business. So Klaus, thank you so much for being here. And please tell us a little bit about Green Sun Rising and what you've been up to in the last little bit.
Well, thank you kindly for having me. And since you mentioned it, yes, we are the longest operating solar company in Southern Ontario. Founded in January 2008. And I was told to my face, Klaus, you're crazy, it's never gonna fly. We started at a time when there was no solar industry in Canada. And it wasn't easy, believe me. In the year 1, I went to Germany 5 times. Why? Because they were world champions in solar technology. And so we started on the shoulders of the best. 1 year into the company, I had the good fortune of meeting a senior industrialist who had more factories than he needed. In other words, we moved into an old, abandoned tool-making facility, automotive, and we actually recycled the facility. And we're still there today. And that is when what I had in my head, I was able to show. Now we had a factory, lots of room, we had a showroom, and I could put things into operation. And by the way, that's around the time when we put the first EV charging station into the city of Windsor. Well before Edwin or anyone else. We actually had charging stations before we had our own electric vehicle. My wife has been driving purely electric since 11 years now. Both of my children have learned purely on emission-free vehicle. To my best of knowledge, neither of them has ever put any gasoline into a vehicle, and I ride the bicycle religiously since well over 15 years. So we do develop and implement solar systems, both photovoltaic as well as solar thermal. We work locally, and to date we have done well over 500 solar systems across Southern Ontario. 11 years ago, we reached out recognizing that one piece of legislation, namely the Green Energy Act of Ontario, is not really a very secure one business. And the way the reality turned out, that program was discontinued. So 11 years ago, I basically looked around, and I went to the Caribbean, I went to Africa, I went to countries that have very underdeveloped electricity supply, but I wasn't comfortable working there because there's so much corruption, and so I decided I have to stay in Canada. And this is when I had the good fortune of developing a relationship with the Arctic Energy Alliance. I learned that Canada is a mighty large country. We have well over 250 communities that are so remote that they are purely operating on diesel power plants. And diesel power is expensive, it's polluting, and so 11 years ago, we branched into a speciality, which is solar systems for reduction of diesel. To date, we have implemented 55 solar systems, and if you go to our website and you go to our project map, you will see that we have solar systems in operation across the whole Canadian North, including the northernmost. And yes, I rode a bicycle in Riese Fjord on Ellesmere Island, so I am claiming northernmost bicycle riding. And if you go to the news section of our website and you scroll down, you will find a video of a guy, crazy guy, riding a bicycle on the frozen Arctic Ocean off Tuktoyaktuk. So the 55 solar systems we have in operation across the Canadian North are avoiding over 350,000 liters of diesel every year. And by the way, that's diesel in the community. And I always say, the diesel fuel in a remote Canadian community is extremely well traveled. We have communities up there, they have one ship a year. Can you imagine that? That's your supply, one ship a year. And there are sometimes cases where the ship can't make it because of ice condition. And now what do? You fly in fuel. Now that gets really, really expensive. So in any case, thank you for having me. And we have a booth here. We also have a large showroom. We're open to the public. And now we actually have 2 associates driving purely electric, emission-free. Both of them have a solar system at work with a charging station and a solar system at home with a charging station. So basically, completely net zero based on renewables. Thank you.
So not only do they sell these systems, they live it and they breathe it, and you've been all over the world sort of delivering this incredible technology. You're not a small business here in Windsor, Essex. You're doing big things on a global scale, and we're so lucky to have you in our backyard. Thank you so much for being here. So, if you're looking to get out of the sun, and you're looking not to capture it like Klaus is doing, you may be heading to some of the green spaces in Windsor and Essex County. And we've got some phenomenal ones as well. And we've got more on the way too. And so Urca is behind doing a lot of that work in protecting those spaces. We have so few left, and they are so precious to us. We have more biodiversity here than anywhere else in Canada. We have species that are endemic to our region that are found nowhere else. And Urca is behind protecting them. And they're making sure that the development that's taking place in our region, which needs to happen for future forward things, is being done in a responsible way. And that job is incredibly tough, and it's a really big responsibility, and we're so lucky to welcome Danielle here today to tell us a little bit about what Urca is doing and how you're doing it. It is not yet. They should be solar powered.
Thanks so much, Adam. As he said, I'm Danielle Brostubing, and I'm the Director of Communications for the Essex Region Conservation Authority, and it's been my honor to be doing that job since 1999. And the Essex Region Conservation Authority was established in 1973. We're one of 36 conservation authorities across Ontario, and the cornerstone of what conservation authorities do is to manage the natural resources of a region on a watershed basis. So Adam talked earlier about ecosystems, and watersheds are sort of synonymous with ecosystems. When we look at a watershed, it doesn't just stop at a municipal boundary or some sort of arbitrary boundary. We really have to look at how actions upstream impact actions downstream. And we do that in a number of ways. We're known, of course, for our conservation areas. We have 17 publicly accessible conservation areas across the region, at least one in every single municipality. And we protect those not only for their habitat values, for their the habitat that they provide for species, but also in cases where it's compatible, we put in trails or visitor services so that people can connect to nature. There's scientific studies that prove that a 30-minute walk in nature actually has the same value as a low-dose antidepressant. And so there's scientific studies that prove this, that the time spent in nature is critically important to not only our physical well-being, but our mental well-being as well. In addition to our conservation areas, we have nearly 100 kilometers of greenway trail system. We started acquiring the very first abandoned rail line back in 1996, and people said, you're crazy. Nobody's ever going to use a greenway trail. That's absolutely crazy. Well, fast forward now, and people can't get enough greenways. In addition to that original 46 kilometers, that's now the Chrysler Canada Greenway. Thank you, Chrysler Canada. In 2017, we opened the Cipher Systems Group Greenway, which is an additional 26 kilometers that intersects with the existing greenway. And then later that year, we created the Rotary 1918 hub, which connects that greenway trail system to the Herb Gray trails, the town of LaSalle trails, the town of Tecumseh trails. And so it's really taking that vision we had back in 1996 of a region that is entirely connected by safe off-road trails and getting closer to reality. And then we were really excited at the end of last year when we were able to purchase, with the help of a number of partners, the 46-kilometer abandoned Queso rail line, and stay tuned for plans to turn that into a trail system as well. But not only are our conservation areas and natural areas important, as Adam said, we also work with the community to ensure that new development is safe from the dangers of flooding and erosion. We're seeing more and more severe storms, what we classified as 1 in 100-year storms. We're seeing those more and more frequently as a result of climate change. So it's critically important that all new development is protected in a way that is safe from those dangers of flooding and erosion. We have conservation education programs, so helping the young people, and actually learners of all ages, learn about what we can do, because every day in every way, in the choices that we make, we can choose to be more sustainable and have an impact on an individual basis. And finally, what I wanted to talk about is our habitat restoration program. As Adam said, we have some of the lowest tree cover, natural areas cover in all of Canada. But what we have here is so incredibly special because we are at the very southernmost point of Carolinian Canada habitats. So the forests that you see here are very different from the forests that you see in other parts of Canada. And we at Orca plant about between 80,000 and 100,000 trees every single year. And there's no other organization in our community that's planting trees at that scope and scale. We also do wetland restoration, prairie habitat, which is again something that's quite special that lives in our region. And I could talk for hours and hours with great passion about all of the things that we're doing to try and create a more sustainable environment, but I know we're on a time limit, so Adam, back to you.
Danielle, thank you so much. Amazing, the work that they do at Orca. And not only that, but I wanted to touch on the fact too, when we're talking about these 100-year storms, protecting green space isn't just about a nice place to walk through, even though it's fantastic. And one of my favorite things to do on a weekend is head out to a conservation area with my daughter, but it also protects us from flooding. So when you have trees that are maintaining the soil and they're absorbing all of that moisture, you've got less flooding. When you've got pavement all over the place, you've got a lot of it. And so as we're developing and as we're doing these new plannings, and we've got, Sandwich South and all of these great new housing developments that are coming through to accommodate for new workers that are going to be coming in to work with the new battery plant and other opportunities, you've got this great opportunity to make sure that we're building in green spaces not only to be great for quality of life, but it also mitigates flooding. It also mitigates a lot of these effects that we're seeing from climate change locally too.
Yeah, absolutely. Tree planting has been identified as one of the biggest weapons in the fight against climate change, and so continuing to plant more and more trees, and not just planting them, but allocating the spaces to plant them, protecting the trees that are already there, because while tree planting is great, a mature tree is much better. It has a greater carbon sink value and helps to mitigate the impacts of flooding, like you said. So protecting what we have, planting new trees in strategic locations as well. When you're planting along or increasing a green space that already exists, that does have a greater habitat value and impact value as well.
That's amazing. So we already have some takeaways here. One, Klaus and I are going for a bike ride on the new trail. Yeah, okay. Two is, if you really want to make a difference, go plant a tree, because the impact that has on our environment, our neighborhoods is phenomenal. And three, if you work for a big company and you don't think you can make a difference, talk to Rick, because he's get together 10,000 of his fellow workers, and together they've made a lot of change. And there's a lot of good things that come from people coming together and doing that type of work, and it might be hard, but it's worth it, and Rick is a good example of why that looks. And if you're curious about what's going on in our own backyard and how the city of Windsor is developing things, reach out to the team at the City of Windsor and talk to them about their plans. Their plans are all available online as well. If you're looking for them, and if you really, really want to make a difference, go solar, right? Live it and breathe it, and make sure that you've got a charger in your own backyard that you can use as well. And that's fantastic. And to sort of cap off the conversation, or really the open conversation, and start moving into the questions, we also have the Essex Solid Waste Authority here. And so they do some amazing work too, and it isn't just about garbage collection. It looks like it, we see their trucks on the roads, but you're doing so many things behind the scenes to make sure that how we're disposing of things is being responsibly done, and also what we're able to dispose continues to grow, so that we're not always sending things to landfill. You've got amazing programs that are recycling things, everyday things that we toss out all the time, that are really sort of, able to go back into the circular economy and turn into something different. So thank you so much for joining us here. Do you mind telling us a little bit about your work?
Thanks, Adam. Yes, as Adam just told you, I'm going to be the trash talker of the panel, okay? I work for the Solid Waste Authority. I do communications. I've been doing it for about 30 years now. And the Essex Windsor Solid Waste Authority is the government agency that's been charged. So the Essex Windsor Solid Waste Authority is the government agency that's been charged with economically and environmentally dealing with all of your garbage. So whether that's your recyclables, whether that's your cast off, the things that you don't want, whether that's the actual garbage that's going to the landfill, all of those things, we need to manage that economically and environmentally, because everybody throws things away. Well, the Solid Waste Authority actually deals with the away. Where does it go? Well, we run a landfill, all right? We have the one landfill in Windsor, Essex County. It is 123 hectares. That's huge. It's a massive footprint. And we only have one. And we want this landfill to last as long as we can. So we have other programs that support that landfill. We have a recycling program. We have a two-stream recycling program, which is basically your containers in one box, your blue box, and your paper in another. Your fiber is in the red box. So we collect all of those things and we take them to, we have 2 MRFs, and a MRF is called the Material Recycling Facility. So we take them there where they are processed and sold. Recycling is a commodity. They are resources. They should never be thrown in the garbage. That aluminum is worth a lot of money. 8 aluminum cans you can power a TV with for about 3 hours. So these are resources. We don't want to throw those away. So we also run depots. We have 3 depots in Essex, Windsor. We have 1 in Windsor, we have 1 in Essex, and 1 in Kingsville. And these are very important because you can take the things that you don't want anymore, or maybe you've done using them. Things like bicycles, things like flower pots in the city of Windsor. We have chemical waste, so you don't know what to do with your chemicals. Your leftover paint, your batteries, your things like even used cooking oil. All those things you can take to a depot and drop it off free of charge if you're a resident. Right? Your extra yard waste, even extra recyclables. You had a big party, you have a lot, you want to take them out, you don't want to wait your 2 weeks, you can take them, drop them off at the depot. You can drop off white goods, you can drop off tires. These are all the things that you may not know what to deal with, but we know how to deal with them economically and environmentally. So we make sure that they get to the right place, and everything that can be recycled gets recycled. Everything that can be composted is composted. So we're looking to reduce, we're looking to use, and we're looking to recycle. So that's basically what the authority does through our backyard composting program, through our green cone digesting program. In 2025, there will be a curbside organics program coming to Windsor and Essex County. So basically the authority is trying to make sure that all of the things that are out there in society, that we know how to deal with them. Because everybody creates garbage. It's how you deal with it that's so important. So we're trying to tell people, we're kicking this off. Waste Reduction Week is next week. And waste reduction is really important because reduce, reuse, recycle. Reduce is the very first one. That's the most important one. So just buy less stuff, make less garbage. It sounds easy, right? Well, that's not always the case because we're humans, and advertising and marketing, which is brilliant, gets to us. And we have this thing, and it's in this color, but the next season it's the wrong color. There's a new trendy color, and we need to buy that one. And I was talking earlier to a colleague of mine, and I said, compared to 20 years ago, We buy 60% more clothes and we use them for half as long. That's an overconsumption problem. So we need to take those used clothing and we need to donate them. Maybe there's a friend or a family, maybe there's an immigrant family, maybe there's kids that need the clothes. Maybe you bought a nice dress and you want to sell it on consignment. There's places that you can take those. You should be recycling your textiles. You should be recycling your eyeglasses. All of those things you can reduce the amount of waste you create through buy less stuff. You can start to be more sustainable. So that's every little step counts. So zero waste is an incredibly hard thing to do, but you need to take baby steps to get there. Every little action that you can take. Everybody thinks that this is so big, it's such a big idea, and what are we going to do? And one person can't make a difference, but one person absolutely can make a difference. It's the little things that you can do. It's, okay, I've used this up. So in the Solid Waste Authority, we like to call this the BUD principle. Buy only what you need, use it up, and dispose of the rest properly through waste reduction, recycling, donation. You're going to use that product. Buy less stuff, use a better product. When you've used something, can you make a better decision? Let's just take the little sponge that you're using in the kitchen. A lot of the sponges that can be made out of microplastic or anything like that. But there's also cellulose sponge that are made of plant-based materials. So hey, the next time you need a sponge, buy a plant-based one. That way when you're done with it, you can compost it. There's cellulose washcloths now that take the place of 300 rolls of paper towels. So the next time, maybe you can reduce the amount of paper towels you're using by using a cellulose sponge, which you can wash in your dishwasher, or you can wash in your washing machine, or in your sink. You can do all of these things. Every little action counts. And to kick off Waste Reduction Week, we have a different theme for every day. You can follow the Solid Waste Authority on social media, or you can go over and talk to our wonderful staff in our booth, because when you throw something out, it doesn't go away, it actually has to go somewhere. And it takes 10 years to site a landfill, and nobody wants a landfill in their backyard. So reducing the amount of waste that we create is so very, very important.
Thank you so much. I think you made so many great points there. So many great points. Thank you. Starting small and sort of starting where you're at, I think, is really important. But also you touched on the fact that we do consume so much in our society. And I think growing up in the 80s and the 90s and the 70s, things have become so cheap. There was a race to the bottom to be able to provide people with the cheapest stuff at the lowest price, often at the cost of jobs, often at the cost of labor. And what we have now is a society where it's okay to throw stuff out because it's cheaper than fixing it. It's cheaper than, and so if there's a silver lining to the fact that we go to the grocery store and the banana is now $7, is that we're looking at our budgets a little bit differently, and I think we're looking at how we shop differently too. And so there's a really important piece there where it's, as things get more unaffordable in our region, there's this opportunity to reduce and to fix and to reuse things and recycle in ways that we've never really thought about before, because it's always been more convenient to just get it out of the way and get something new. Get a new color because it's the new season. But there's a huge opportunity here for all of us to really contribute in that way and dig in and say, okay, what's around me? What's in my house that I'm able to kind of repurpose, I'm able to fix instead? Yeah, Rick, go ahead.
I think one of the common things that we do in every organization that's on the stage, in fact, I worked with these people before, whether it's Children's Water Fest or Earth Day, is the education, to talk about these ideas and talk about changing behavior. I remember when my sister, back when we were young, the Blue Box program came out, and my dad had a habit, threw a Pepsi can right into the garbage, and she said, "Don't you care about my planet? You're doing this to me. I gotta live here 20, 30 years from now." And it really stuck with him, and he changed his behavior. And eventually we all do it, right? But it took a little political will, it took some laws. But one of the things that we do is education, because the kids that you got right here in that little group, they could be the future politician, the future business owner, the future voter, the future, a designer or a creator or somebody that's gonna come up with a solution to the pollution, because they're thinking about this. So education is a big part of it, and our union, we teach our members about the environment, and environment in the workplace, sharing ideas that Allison or others have done in the Ford and GM plant, so that they can don't have to reinvent the wheel. Basically do this in your plant. Reduce costs, reduce waste, and we share these things by education. And I think that's one of the greatest things that these people do, is share this knowledge, and it's available. We just got to be more organized together and share. We do an Earth Day, we do like the Children's Water Fest, but it'd be nice to see that go into curriculum for the high school students, the grade school students, because if you plant that seed, those people are going to be doing wonderful things 20 years from now. That's what I do.
And so, do you two here, are you the ones that make sure that mom and dad do all of their cycling at home? Yeah? You yell at them if they don't? Yeah? Fantastic. I think, there's a lot that we can do in this space, and one of the things that's going to be coming online in the next little bit, and we're just starting to pilot with the City of Windsor, is food waste and food reduction. And especially because groceries are so much more expensive, that lettuce that stays at the back of your shelf in your fridge that you open up every time you grab a takeout container and then wave to it and say goodbye, when that has to be thrown out, it just goes into a landfill, and it creates methane, it creates all of these different things that aren't necessarily great for the planet, and it doesn't break down because landfills are not designed for things to break down in. And so we've got a new program with the City of Windsor, and Karina, maybe you'd be able to share a little bit about it with us, the pilot that's going on in EWSA as well.
In 2025, as I previously mentioned, we are launching an organics program. That's going to be curbside, so any single-family home will have a little bin. We have one over at our booth. But there is going to be a section of the population that doesn't get that because they don't own a home. They could be a condo in a high-rise, an apartment building, and they are going to say, hey, to us, how do I reduce my food waste? What are you going to do for me? So we have partnered with a Canadian company called Food Cycle Science, and they have been in 43 different Canadian municipalities running pilot projects on a little machine, and it's called a food cycler, and it's about the size of a bread maker. I can see Allison smiling out there. And what happens is you take your leftovers, you just scrape your plate, and you put it in a little bucket. The bucket goes inside this machine, and you press go. And what happens is it takes, through energy and through heat, it takes your food waste and it turns it into a soil amendment. You have a little bit of soil amendment, and the first time I got one home, I got to test it out, and I was all excited, and I took perfectly good radishes and a perfectly good potato, and I threw it in there, and I got really excited, and I pressed go. And then what came out of it was, it looked like bacon bits. It did not taste like bacon bits, but it looked like bacon bits. I actually tasted them because it was, perfectly good potato and radishes that I threw in there. Next time I threw leftover food waste and some leftover cabbage, and it looked more like fluffy. It looked more like compost, I guess. So, but what you can do is then you can, when you have this left over, you can throw it into your garden. You can throw it in your landscape. You can put it on your lawn. It is a completely sterile food amendment. And as Adam was saying, and as everybody on here, whether it's Danielle through IRCA and keeping our waterways and watersheds and the environment cleaner, and Krita with climate change, we're all moving towards trying to protect the environment. And Canadian households waste, and this number is staggering, $1,300 per year we throw out in edible food. That's not garbage food, that's edible food that we throw away. We can do better. Food is a resource, we should never be throwing it away. So the food cycler is one of those things that we are piloting to see how much we can, as a government agency, we have to have data. So we have to have waste diversion data to see if this is something that works. But people so far, they really like it, and we're compiling the numbers now to see if this might be a solution for apartments and condos. Because it's not going to be a solution for curbside overall, because there's just too many houses. But it could be a solution for a portion of the population. So we're really happy with the results so far, and we're hoping that everybody out there really thinks about how to reduce food waste. Whether if your kids aren't eating what you're putting in their lunch box, put something different. Heather and I don't know if I see Heather, we did an audit at St. Peter's School one time, and there was 54 pounds of uneaten fruit over one lunchtime. because parents are sending their kids to school with fruit kids don't eat. So it's just better decisions. It's really assessing what's going on in our own house, and I know that takes time and it takes brain power to say, hey, this is what's going on in my own house. Can I make improvements? But I think that's what everybody at this panel is doing.
Absolutely, yeah. That's actually so cool, and you know, there's these units that are available now as a subsidy as well, and Susie on our team has been using one for the last few months, and she did very similar to you, was like, what's in the fridge immediately, because I want to make some dirt, like today. And what a cool way to create that circular economy in your own life when you can use that leftover food to create soil that creates food that you can grow. That means you're spending less at the grocery store, that means you're spending less on food that you're going to throw out, and it starts to really make a big impact. And we'll open up the floor, I think, for a little bit of questions here, because in front of you right now are people that are working on things that every day you interact with as a citizen in our region. Every single day, whether or not you're driving past the plants and it's making less pollution and less smog for our lungs, whether or not you're enjoying the incredible green spaces, whether or not you're interacting with our not so small businesses, the city of Windsor, you've got this incredible panel up here. So please, any questions, anything that you want to know, burning things that you're curious about? Yeah. It is not, no, but you can just shout at me.
My question involves the recycling end of things, and you've probably heard this yourself, that there's sort of a, I don't know if it's a rumor or just maybe the perception that plastic bottles in particular end up in the garbage, regardless of whether you recycle them at the road level. So I guess my question is, are they really recycled, or do they often end up in the garbage?
That's a good question. So just to reiterate, in case you didn't hear him, with Barbara Walters with us here asking the hard-hitting things, there's a rumor out there that as you recycle things, it doesn't always end up in recycling programs. Sometimes it ends up in the landfill anyways. And the question is, like, is that a thing, and how prevalent is it in our community?
Plastic bottles in specific?
Plastic specific. Thank you, sir.
I can assure you that every plastic bottle that you put in your recycle bin, if it ends up with us and doesn't blow away down the street, or if a dog doesn't come and take it out of the bin, if it ends up with us, we're trying to recycle it. It's going down the processing line, especially water bottles, that's PET. It's going to be going into a PET bale, and it goes through a baler. Basically, we compress it first, and we have a whole system we used to do an open house, and we take people through the plant so they can see. We have 36 processing lines in our container MRF. And we have this really cool machine. It's called it takes a picture of it, an instantaneous picture, and your recycles shoot out in different directions depending on what the material is. So PET has its own basically line that it goes down on all your water bottles, and they go down and they get compressed in a machine, and we compress them into a big cube, and it's called a bale, and the bale gets wound with wire, so it can stack nicely in a transport trailer, right? So we're not transporting these things loose, there's too much volume, you have to be efficient, right? So if you're going down the highway in a transport trailer, everything's in a nice big cube. So all those water bottles get compressed into a big cube, and what comes into our recycling plant, if it's recyclable, gets recycled. We don't want your pots and pans. Like, we have people throwing pool noodles in their recycling bin, and pots and pans and bizarre things that get thrown in their bins. Those things, no, we don't want those. We only want the things on the list of what's accepted. But yes, absolutely, what comes to the recycling center gets recycled.
Fantastic. Thank you for your question, sir. Anyone else? Yes. Yeah, right here. Whoa, you gotta shout at me. I can't hear you.
How can kids in their daily lives help?
Yeah, that's a great question. So how can kids in their daily lives help with this, help reduce greenhouse emissions?
Well, I think that's a great question, and I think there's a lot of things that you can do in your daily life. So like Kat was talking about, the food that you eat, make sure you eat it all and don't waste it. If you have a composter at home, you know, any of your apple cores or things that can be composted should go in the composter. ride your bike or walk as opposed to asking mom and dad for a ride, because that's going to help to cut down on your carbon footprint. And the other thing Adam touched on earlier is your clothes. You know, I think there comes sometimes where we think the more clothes that we have, the more successful or the cooler that we are. But we don't have to have a lot of clothes. And I think normalizing that amongst your peers, that, you know, we don't need to have this shirt in every color or Lululemon pants, that we want to buy a few things that'll last a long time, and it's okay to wear them a couple of times a week. So all of those things you can talk to your friends about, I think will make a big difference, and you can have a big difference also in when you get a little bit older and you're going to vote for people or talk to people who are in power about why it's important to you. And that can make a really big difference as well.
Another thing is we want to keep our waterways clean. We want to keep our environment clean. Don't litter. You know, if you brought it in, take it back. Put it in your backpack. Find a bin. But a lot of people, if they don't know what to do with it, they just throw it on the trail. Don't throw it on the trail. If you're out biking, if you're out walking, don't throw it on the trail. Don't throw it in our Great Lakes. We don't want it in our Great Lakes. Don't throw, and I'll pass this over to Karina, but we don't want your chemicals in our waterways. So don't pour those chemicals down your storm sewer. You know, there's a place that you can take it. We want to keep our water clean. We want to keep our trails clean. Don't litter.
I just want to top it off. You had a voice here. You actually asked a question, which I think is fabulous for someone your age. Use that voice. You know, you're here, you're learning stuff. Share that knowledge. I think, you know, if your school has an eco team, join it. Be part of that leadership to say, why aren't we doing more? Like, we could be doing this, we could be doing that, right? You know, again, taking that little piece of education maybe you got from here and sharing it. Because maybe then they'll share it and they'll share it. So I think that's, you know, just you can be a leader and help change things in the future.
I would say too, it's something we haven't touched on yet, but you can vote with your dollar. In that there's companies out there that are doing really good stuff. They are working for the environment and they're really vocal about it. They have it on their packaging. They show you this is recyclable, or we give back, or we plant trees. There's all the things that they do. Make sure that mom and dad are spending money on the companies that are committed to that. They're committed to the environment, committed to your community, because they're always going to be vocal about that, and you can tell pretty easily whether or not a company's doing that or not. And look at, you know, Green Sun Rising is a really good example. They aren't just selling solar panels. Their entire team drives cars that are EV, that are charged by this. They're biking to work every day. So get to know the small businesses in your community as well. And as you're spending money with them, ask them, what's your strategy on this? How do you participate in making our region a little bit greener? Because your voice matters a lot. And the more you use it, the more people are going to listen. So keep doing that. Thank you.
I just wanted to add, it's just our own behavior. Like, you know, I teach my young kids to brush their teeth, don't leave the water running, because that's a waste. And they never thought about that, but then they start being light police. Turn off the light off behind people. Notice that you charge your phone, unplug your charger. A lot of people don't realize that. We got a game system on the plugged in wall, but you're not using it, unplug it. It's using electricity whether you play it on for, you know, we don't think about these things. And it's just about behavior. And when you realize how everything's full of energy and that you're using it, you start to reverse your decision, how you work. Just being knowledgeable about that, just keep that in your conscious, you automatically start changing your behavior. You realize that without noticing that, because you walk in the house, you left all the lights on, and you realize that I gotta go back and turn them all off. But you start changing your habit when you start thinking like that. So just the very thought that you asked, we're already in good shape.
We're all super excited for you to become the president or the prime minister. So please, get on that. Yeah. Any other questions here? Yes, sir.
Just a question about culture in Windsor, Essex. You've all been in this space for a long time. Some of you mentioned travel to other places that are doing things better, maybe. Also, I think 3 of you said you've been called crazy before. Have you noticed
all of us
a change in culture over the past decade or so? Are we moving in the right direction?
Yeah, that's a great question. So the question is has there been a change of culture? We've all experienced places that are doing this really well. There's places around the world that are leading the charge on this, and some of us here have actually gone there to see and make sure that we're sort of bringing back as much as we can of those best practices. But Karina, this might be a good one for you. You've been on the, yeah.
As you said, you can vote with your dollar, and I think that's so important. And I think this young lady out in the audience, that's the type of people that they're going to say when they go to buy their clothing. Is it plant-based? Is it green practices that you're doing? You have a voice, and I think that's where I'm seeing more and more of that out there. Green, cleaning products, or a certified B corporation where they're doing everything they can environmentally all the way along the production process. So I think that you can all speak with your own voice and demand that of the companies that you are purchasing from. Are they a certified B corporation? Is their production to the highest environmental standards? I think we as consumers, we can vote with our dollar and we can demand better. And I think we're starting to see that more and more.
So I think, yes, certainly having been in this space for almost a quarter of a century now, there's certainly much more awareness about the importance of our natural environment, the importance of tree planting. Sometimes actions aren't as speedy as the recognition, but recognition is the first step, certainly. But in addition to voting with your dollars, vote with your vote, or at least speak to those in power to let them know that the environment is important to you, that sustainability is important to you, that resilience to climate change is important to you. Because if those who we elect to serve us don't know that their constituents find that it is important, then they don't know. So you have to make sure to everyone who comes and knocking at your door at election time, let them know that the environment and its sustainability is important to you.
When I was elected as the chairperson in 1999, and I was talking about environment, believe me, they were thinking of Chicken Little saying the sky's fault. You're a tree hugger, whatever, and they call me all these names, but at the end of the day, people start taking it a little more serious today. Now, is everybody on board on climate change? I think more people see this weather pattern and maybe that to change a little bit. But I think the fact that we talk about pollution, whether you believe in climate change or not, you can't dismiss that brown haze around the sunset that we all look at and notice that we're breathing that. And I think, and to be honest, I'm speaking to you because you're a father. That's how it got me motivated. I mean, I got an award from Merca, I got an award from Dairy Parent Activist Award, but I was involved for so long just because I believe as a parent that I have to do something because my kids won't have a say to their voting age. So I wasn't gonna sleepwalk through all that. I was gonna take every opportunity to vote or write a letter to the editor, or I always had an opinion, so I'm gonna make sure somebody here. And so lo and behold, they labeled me later as the environment, and I get elected as a chairperson. But I just wanted to get involved. And the very thing that you're talking about, people are more in tune to do it for the next generation. Even if they don't see it in their lifetime, they're thinking about that generation. And I think people are getting it, even if they're not sure what is the ultimate solution. As far as technology, is just electric vehicle the ultimate? Is there something else we haven't thought of? Like we said yesterday at the VIP message, we have to deal, and Adam said it best, we have to deal with what we got working right now. And if we can improve our performance from yesterday, then we're all on board. If there's a better idea coming down 5 years from now, we'll jump on that bandwagon. But regardless, we gotta be a solution to the pollution. We gotta seek out for better things. And I think people are getting it, my friend. It's a lot easier for me to do this job than, let's say, in the 90s. When they thought, well, I don't know. But a lot more people are on board now today than I would think so.
I'd even say like this conversation, this event that Liz put together with the city of Windsor and all the sponsors here, corporate sponsors that really care about this conversation didn't happen 10 years ago. It didn't even happen 5 years ago. And so we're starting to see it now. And this is your daughter, I imagine. The fact that she asked that question, that's the culture change that we need here. That's what we're seeing, and that's what we need more of. So you're doing your job. Thank you so much. And so I think that's the takeaway here, is that all the work that's going on across the board here and all these different organizations, we can't do what we do unless you're engaged, you're telling us what you want to see, you're telling us about the future of our region that you want to have here and you want to live in, because we want to provide it for you. We want to put things into place that'll allow you to do that and to really preserve what we have in Ontario's southwest for as long as we possibly can. So thank you all for being here today. We appreciate your time, and thank you to my panelists. Incredible work. And if you see us, come up to us. Tell us what you want to see. We want to talk to you. Thank you. Bye-bye.